Galactic Maps End at Earth, Where Human Myths Break the Bold Part 5. The voice of the Witness Collective brought an immediate ceasefire to the battle. Every ship, human and alien alike, stopped firing and waited. No one had ever heard of the Witness Collective, but the power in that voice made it clear they were something ancient and vast beyond comprehension. Space itself seemed to fold. Where there had been empty vacuum, a structure appeared. It was massive, larger than Earth's moon, made from materials that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Geometric patterns flowed across its surface, constantly changing yet somehow perfectly ordered. Inside Earth's command center, Hyun stared at the tactical display. "What is that thing?" "Unknown," Taewon replied. "It's not on any database. It's not broadcasting any identification signals. It's just there." Daeon was analyzing the sensor readings. "I'm detecting technology that's millions of years more advanced than anything in the concordance. Whatever this is, it's older than galactic civilization itself." The voice spoke again, and this time images accompanied the words. They appeared in the minds of everyone in the solar system, human and alien. They saw the birth of the galaxy, the rise of the first intelligent species, the slow spread of life across the stars. "We were the first," the Witness Collective said. "Before the concordance, before the Kiltharian Empire, before any of you, we explored every world, cataloged every species, guided the young civilizations toward the stars. For 8 million years we watched over the galaxy." The images changed. They showed a golden age when hundreds of species lived in harmony, sharing knowledge and resources. But then something shifted. The civilizations became stagnant. They stopped innovating. They stopped exploring. They built perfect societies that never changed, never grew. The galaxy was dying, the Witness Collective continued. Not from war or plague, but from predictability. Every species evolved on stable worlds where logic and order led to survival. They built civilizations based on those same principles, and in doing so, they trapped themselves in patterns they couldn't break. The images shifted again, showing worlds freezing in time, civilizations reaching their peak and then simply stopping, unable to move forward. We searched for a solution. We needed a species that evolved differently, one that thrived in chaos rather than order, one that could break patterns through sheer irrationality. We searched for 1 million years and found nothing. Now the images showed Earth, but not modern Earth, ancient Earth, a planet of fire and ice where continents crashed together and split apart, where the climate swung wildly between extremes, where life itself seemed like a mistake that somehow kept surviving. Then we found your world, a planet so hostile that by all logic, intelligent life should have been impossible. But life emerged anyway, and it was beautiful. It was chaotic. It was everything the galaxy needed. Ji-won watched the images from her fighter, her head still connected to the neural interface. She saw humans evolving, facing extinction again and again and somehow surviving through nothing but stubbornness and creativity. She saw them develop language not just to communicate facts, but to tell stories, to create myths that inspired them to attempt the impossible. "You are the answer," the Witness Collective said. "Humanity is the spark that can reignite the galaxy's evolution. But first you must survive, and that means teaching the other species what you know." The images faded. The voice fell silent. And in its wake, every ship in the system waited to see what would happen next. On the damaged Concordance flagship, Kexishan sat in emergency command surrounded by smoke and sparking electronics. He had lost. His fleet was broken. His superweapon was destroyed. But something the Witness Collective said had struck deep into his consciousness. He opened a communication channel to Earth. "This is High Arbiter Kexishan. I am requesting immediate negotiations. No more fighting. No more death. We need to talk." Hyun looked at the others in the command center. Taewon nodded. Doon pulled up diplomatic protocols. And Ji-won, still connected to the neural interface, felt the genuine exhaustion and fear in Kexishan's mind. He wasn't surrendering. He was reaching out for help. "Agreed," Hyun said. "Bring your command staff to the neutral station at the edge of the system. We'll meet you there." 12 hours later, representatives from Earth and the Concordance sat across from each other in a conference room aboard a hastily prepared diplomatic station. The mood was tense but no longer hostile. Too much had been revealed. Too many assumptions had been shattered. Kexishan spoke first. 30,000 years ago, my ancestors encountered your species. We tried to conquer you. We failed, and in failing we learned to fear you. We built the concordance to keep the rest of the galaxy safe from your chaos. You were wrong to fear us. A new voice said. It was Soyeon, Earth's senior diplomat who had arrived from the planet's surface. She was older than the others, with gray in her hair and the weight of experience in her eyes. Humans don't want to conquer the galaxy. We never have. We just want to live our lives and explore new places. But you can't help being dangerous, Thaxor said. He had survived the flagship's destruction, though he looked aged by the experience. Your very existence warps reality. Your thoughts can change probability. Your stories can drive other species mad. How can we coexist with that? Diyun pulled up her research data. By understanding it, the adaptive extremis effect only activates in response to existential threats. When humans feel safe, we're no more dangerous than any other species. The problem is that you treated us as threats, which made us dangerous. A paradox, Kexishan said quietly. Fear us and we become fearsome. Exactly, Soyeon leaned forward. But it works in reverse too. Trust us and we'll be trustworthy. Work with us and we'll help you solve problems that seem impossible. A young scientist named Jaemin, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. I've been analyzing the data from the battle. The adaptive extremis effect isn't just about survival. It's about achieving goals that we truly believe in. When humans are fighting for something they care about, reality itself seems to help them. That's terrifying, one of the concordance officers said. Or useful, Jemin countered. The Witness Collective said the galaxy is stagnant. Civilizations aren't innovating anymore. Maybe humans can help with that. Not by conquering or ruling, but by showing other species how to think in new ways. Kexishan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, What are you proposing? Soyeon pulled up a document she had prepared. A modified quarantine. Earth remains technically isolated, but we establish cultural exchange programs. Small groups of humans and aliens living together, learning from each other. Scientists working on joint projects. Artists sharing their work across species lines. Slow integration rather than sudden contact. You want to infect the galaxy with human chaos gradually instead of all at once, Thaxor said. We want to share our perspective, Soyeon corrected. Yes, humans think differently. Yes, we can do things that seem impossible to species that evolved on stable worlds, but that doesn't make us monsters. It makes us different. And the galaxy needs different right now. The negotiations lasted 3 days. In the end, a compromise was reached. Earth's quarantine would remain in place, but with significant modifications. Humans would be allowed to travel to designated cultural exchange stations. Aliens could visit Earth with proper authorization. Scientific cooperation would be encouraged, though carefully monitored. Most importantly, the truth about Earth would no longer be hidden. The galaxy would learn that humanity had been defending itself for 100,000 years. They would learn about the adaptive extremis effect. They would learn about human chaos and creativity and stubborn refusal to accept the impossible. Some species would fear them. Others would be fascinated. But all would know that galactic maps didn't end at Earth anymore. They began there. Jiwon stood on the observation deck of the new cultural exchange station, watching construction drones work on expanding the facility. Beside her, Minho shook his head in amazement. I can't believe this is real, he said. A month ago, Earth was a forbidden zone. Now we're building bridges to the galaxy. We're good at building bridges, Jiwon replied. Humans have been connecting impossible things for thousands of years. This is just one more bridge. Hyun and Suwa joined them at the window. The commander looked tired but satisfied. The first group of alien civilians arrives next week. Students, artists, scientists. They're all volunteers who want to understand human culture. Are we ready for that? Suwa asked. No, Hyun admitted. But when have humans ever been ready for anything? We just do it anyway and figure it out as we go. Far below them, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, a planet that had given birth to the galaxy's most dangerous species. A world where myths became real and the impossible happened regularly. Yoonji's voice came through the station's communication system. She was back on Earth now, helping to prepare for the coming exchanges. I've been thinking about what the Witness Collective said, about us being the answer to the galaxy's stagnation, and, Jiwon asked, I think they're right, but not in the way people expect. We're not special because we're powerful or advanced. We're special because we're really good at being lost and confused and still moving forward anyway. Galactic Maps End at Earth, Where Human Myths Break the Bold Part 4. The battle had been raging for 3 hours when reality itself began to break. Yunji sat in her command chair, her eyes closed but seeing more than any sensor could show. She felt the Concordance fleet like a living thing, thousands of minds connected through their communication networks. Fear pulsed through them, confusion, disbelief. "They don't understand us," she whispered. "They can't understand us." Beside her, a young technician named Wu Jin stared at his console in shock. "Ma'am, I'm picking up, I don't even know what to call it. Mimetic interference? The alien ships are experiencing cascading system failures, but there's no physical cause. It's like their computers are having nervous breakdowns." "Because they are," Yunji said. She opened her eyes. "Human consciousness is contaminating their systems. We think in ways their technology wasn't designed to handle." She stood and walked to the observation window. Outside, the space battle had become something from a nightmare. Human fighters were performing maneuvers that broke every law of physics. Ships that should have been destroyed were still fighting, held together by sheer willpower and probability manipulation. But the Concordance fleet was adapting. Thaxor had ordered his ships to switch to autonomous targeting systems, cutting out the organic crews. Without minds to be affected by human mimetic attacks, the ships fought more efficiently. "We're losing again," Wu Jin reported. "They've destroyed 40% of our defensive platforms." Hyun's voice came through the comm system. "All forces, fall back to secondary defensive line. Concentrate fire on their flagship. If we can take out Kexishan, maybe the fleet will retreat." Minho heard the order and laughed bitterly. The Concordance flagship was the size of a small moon, protected by shields that could withstand a supernova. Attacking it with fighters was suicide, but he turned his ship toward it anyway. Because that's what humans did. They charged toward impossible odds and refused to accept defeat. Around him, hundreds of other fighters did the same. They formed up in attack formation and accelerated toward the massive flagship. The journey took 10 minutes, during which Concordance point defense systems destroyed a third of the attack force. Minho dodged and weaved through the defensive fire. His cybernetic enhancements were burning hot, processing more data than they were designed to handle. He felt his ship respond to his thoughts before he could even touch the controls. It was as if the fighter had become an extension of his body. They reached the flagship's shields. Weapons fire hammered against the barrier of energy, each shot dissipating harmlessly. The shield held. Nothing they had could penetrate it. Then Junho did something impossible. His fighter, already damaged and leaking atmosphere, accelerated directly at the shield. Instead of bouncing off or being destroyed, he phased through it. Just for a microsecond. Just long enough for his ship to pass to the other side. "How?" Yunho whispered, staring at his instruments. "How did I do that?" But there was no time to question. He fired his remaining missiles at the flagship's hull, targeting the weak points his sensors identified. The missiles hit home. Small explosions rippled across the massive ship's surface. They did almost no damage, but they proved something. The shield could be breached. One by one, other fighters began phasing through. Each pilot entered a state of focused desperation, and reality bent to let them through. Soon 50 fighters were inside the shield, firing at the flagship's hull. On the flagship's bridge, Kexishan watched in horror. "How are they penetrating our shields? Those barriers are quantum-locked. Nothing can pass through them." "Nothing logical," his science officer replied. "But humans don't operate on logic. They're manipulating probability at a fundamental level. Every impossible event has a non-zero chance of occurring. They're forcing those impossible chances to happen." Kexishan slumped in his command chair. "Then we've already lost. If they can break quantum physics, they can break anything." But Thaxor wasn't giving up. "Activate the planet killer. We'll destroy Earth itself. Without their homeworld, the humans will lose their power." "No." Kexishan stood. "That weapon has never been tested. We don't know what it will do." "I know exactly what it will do. It will save the galaxy from these monsters." Thaxor entered his authorization codes. "All senior officers confirm planet killer activation." One by one, the officers confirmed. The weapon powered up, drawing energy from the flagship's massive reactors. It would take 10 minutes to charge fully. Then it would fire a beam of compressed dark energy that would destabilize Earth's core and tear the planet apart from the inside. Deep in Earth's command center, alarms shrieked. Sensors detected the energy buildup on the Concordance flagship. "They're charging a superweapon," Taewon announced. "Computer estimates it can destroy a planet. 9 minutes to full charge." Hyun felt ice in his veins. Can we stop it? Not with our weapons. We'd need to destroy the entire flagship, and that's impossible. Hyun was frantically typing on her console. There might be another way. If we can amplify the adaptive extremis effect, channel it through a single individual, they might be able to manipulate probability on a large enough scale to stop the weapon. How do we amplify it? I don't know. It's triggered by survival instinct. We'd need someone who's facing certain death and has the willpower to refuse to accept it. Daeun looked up at Hyun. We'd need someone willing to sacrifice themselves. Before Hyun could respond, Ji-won spoke from across the room. I'll do it. No, Hyun said immediately. Absolutely not. You need a volunteer, and I'm the only one who makes sense. I've been studying dead civilizations for years. I know what happens when species face extinction. I can focus that knowledge, use it to amplify the effect. Ji-won walked toward them. Besides, this is my fault. I brought the concordance here. I have to fix it. You didn't bring them. They were always going to come eventually. Hyun grabbed her shoulders. I just got you back. I'm not losing you again. You won't. I'm not planning to die. I'm planning to do something impossible. Ji-won smiled. That's what we do, right? The impossible. Daeun pulled up a schematic. I can put you in a fighter with an enhanced neural interface. It will connect your consciousness directly to the quantum probability fields around Earth. But Ji-won, the strain on your mind will be enormous. You might not survive. Better than definitely not surviving when that weapon fires. Ji-won turned to her brother. Trust me. Trust that humans can do what every other species thinks is impossible. Hyun looked at his sister for a long moment. Then he nodded. Get her to a fighter now. 5 minutes later, Ji-won was strapped into a modified fighter. The neural interface wrapped around her head like a crown of light. When Daeun activated it, pain exploded through her skull. She could feel everything. Every human mind in the solar system. Every probability wave collapsing into reality. Every quantum fluctuation that could mean life or death. It was too much. Her consciousness started to fragment, unable to process the sheer volume of information. Then she remembered something from her archaeological research. The ancient civilizations that had approached Earth hadn't just been defeated militarily. They'd been defeated psychologically. They encountered humans and couldn't comprehend what they were seeing. Beings who fought with hope instead of logic, who told stories about impossible heroes who defeated unbeatable monsters. Myths. Humanity's greatest weapon was their myths. She focused on those stories, every legend of heroes facing impossible odds, every fairy tale about good triumphing over evil, every myth about humans fighting gods and winning. She pulled those stories from humanity's collective consciousness and wove them into reality. In space, the Concordant soldiers suddenly saw things that couldn't be real. Human fighters that looked like dragons, missiles that moved like serpents from ancient legends, defensive platforms that blazed with the light of the sun gods from a dozen different cultures. None of it was real. But it didn't need to be. The alien crew saw it, believed it, and their belief made it powerful. On the flagship, the planet killer reached full charge. Thaxer gave the order to fire. Junho's damaged fighter was the closest to the weapon. He saw the dark energy building, saw the barrel of the massive gun beginning to turn toward Earth. He knew what he had to do. He cut his engines and let his ship drift directly into the weapon's firing path. Then he closed his eyes and thought about every impossible thing humans had ever done, every time they'd survived when they should have died. Every miracle that logic said couldn't happen. The weapon fired. A beam of compressed dark energy lanced out, enough power to crack a planet in half. It hit Junho's fighter dead center and stopped. The dark energy rippled and twisted around the tiny ship like water flowing around a stone. Junho's fighter should have been annihilated instantly. Instead, it absorbed the energy, channeled it, transformed it from destructive force into harmless light. On the flagship, every system overloaded. The planet killer exploded, tearing through bulkheads and ripping the massive ship apart from the inside. Emergency systems activated, sealing sections and ejecting escape pods. Kexishan stood on his command bridge as chaos erupted around him. He watched through the view screen as Junho's fighter drifted past, still impossibly intact. Inside, the young pilot was unconscious but alive. Galactic maps ended Earth, where human myths break the bold Part 3. The Concordance fleet hung at the edge of Earth's solar system like a wall of metal and death. 5,000 warships, each one capable of destroying cities with a single shot. They arranged themselves in perfect formation, their weapons powered up and ready. Inside Earth's orbital command center, alarms screamed. Tactical displays showed the fleet's positions updating every second. The odds were impossible. Earth had maybe 200 defensive platforms and 300 combat-capable ships. The Concordance outnumbered them 25-1. Hyun stood at the command console, his face calm despite the chaos around him. Years of combat training had taught him to stay focused when everything was falling apart. He pulled up the communication channel to all human forces. All ships, this is Commander Hyun. Battle stations. Defensive formation Delta 7. Do not fire unless fired upon. I repeat, do not engage unless they attack first. Beside him, Taewon was coordinating evacuation procedures for the civilian populations on the orbital stations. We can get maybe 60% of the civilians to Earth's surface before they attack. The rest will have to shelter in the deep bunkers. Do it, Hyun said. And activate the emergency protocols. Taewon hesitated. Sir, the emergency protocols haven't been tested. We don't even know if they'll work. They'll work. They have to. Jiwon watched from the observation deck, her heart pounding. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the distant lights of the Concordance fleet. So many ships, so much firepower. How could Earth possibly survive? Dayun appeared beside her, carrying a tablet covered in complex equations. Your brother asked me to explain what's about to happen. You deserve to know. What is going to happen? Honestly, I'm not completely sure. Dayun pulled up a holographic display. It showed a three-dimensional map of the human brain with certain regions highlighted in red. This is the adaptive extremis effect I mentioned before. When humans face extinction-level threats, our brains undergo a rapid transformation. Our consciousness starts manipulating quantum probability fields. That sounds like something from a fantasy novel. I thought so too, until I saw the data. Dayun zoomed in on one of the highlighted regions. Human evolution happened fast. Too fast, actually. We went from primitive hunters to spacefaring civilization in just 10,000 years. Other species take millions of years to reach that level. The only explanation is that something in Earth's environment accelerated our development. What could do that? Constant threat. Earth is a nightmare planet compared to most worlds that spawn intelligent life. We have volcanoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, ice ages, plagues, predators, and a magnetic field that occasionally flips and exposes us to radiation. Most species evolve on stable worlds with predictable conditions. They build civilizations based on logic and order. And we didn't. No. We built civilizations based on surviving the impossible. We learned to adapt to anything. We learned to hope when hope was irrational. We learned to imagine solutions that didn't exist yet and then make them real through sheer determination. Dayun looked out at the Concordance fleet. That's our weapon. Not our ships or our guns. Our ability to refuse to accept defeat even when defeat is the only logical outcome. A new alarm blared. The tactical display flashed red. They're moving, Taewon announced. The Concordance fleet is advancing. Estimated time to weapons range 40 minutes. Hyun opened a channel to the Concordance flagship. This is Commander Hyun of Earth Defense Force. You are violating our sovereign space. Withdraw immediately or we will defend ourselves. The view screen activated. High Arbiter Kexishan appeared, his ancient face covered in scars that marked centuries of service. Behind him stood dozens of officers from various species, all watching with cold determination. Commander Hyun, Kexishan said. His voice was tired, sad even. I take no pleasure in what must happen today. But the Concordance cannot allow Earth to remain a threat to galactic civilization. We're not a threat. We've never attacked anyone. You exist. That is threat enough. Kexishan gestured and the display changed. It showed ancient battle recordings, each one depicting human forces defeating alien invaders. For 100,000 years, every civilization that approached your world was destroyed. Energy beings, reality warpers, hive minds that controlled 1 billion bodies. All of them fell before humanity. Do you understand what that means? It means we defended ourselves. It means you are weapons. Living, breathing weapons that the universe created by accident. And weapons must be controlled or destroyed. Jiwon pushed her way to the communication console. You're the descendants. The survivors from the last species that encountered Earth. That's why you built the Concordance. That's why you've been hiding the truth. Kexishan's expression didn't change. Clever, Doctor. Yes, my ancestors were the Keltharian Empire. 30,000 years ago, we controlled 10,000 star systems. We were the most powerful civilization the galaxy had ever seen. And then we found Earth. What happened? We tried to study you, to understand how such a primitive species could exist on such a hostile world. We sent scientists, explorers, diplomats. They never returned. So we sent warriors. An entire battle fleet, 20,000 ships. Kexishan's voice became hollow. 3 came back. The crews were insane, babbling about monsters that looked human but fought like gods, about weapons that shouldn't exist, about humans who refused to die no matter how many times they were killed. So you built the Concordance to keep other species away from us. Yes, because if the galaxy learned what Earth truly was, there would be war. Every species would either try to conquer you or destroy you, and they would all fail, and in failing they would die. Kexishan leaned forward. I am trying to save the galaxy, Doctor, even if it means ending humanity. The channel closed. The Concordance fleet continued its advance. Hyun turned to his tactical team. All ships, prepare to engage. Fighter wings launch immediately. Activate all defensive systems. Across Earth's orbital space, hangar doors opened. Hundreds of small fighters poured out, their engines blazing. They looked tiny compared to the massive Concordance warships, like insects swarming toward giants. Minho was in one of those fighters. He'd volunteered the moment the alert went out, surprising everyone, including himself. Now he sat in the cockpit of a human fighter, his cybernetic enhancements plugged directly into the ship's systems. The neural link gave him faster reaction times than any normal pilot. This is insane, he muttered. I'm a smuggler, not a soldier. But he stayed in formation with the other fighters. Something about Earth made people do irrational things, like flying into certain death to protect a planet they barely knew. The Concordance fleet entered weapons range. For a moment, nothing happened. Both sides waited, fingers on triggers, hoping the other would back down. Then General Thaxer, commander of the Concordance military, gave the order to fire. 1,000 beams of energy lanced across space. They moved at the speed of light, impossible to dodge. The defensive platforms took the first hits. Shields flared and died, metal vaporized. Entire sections of the platforms exploded into clouds of debris. But something strange happened. The explosions moved slowly, as if time itself was fighting against them. Escape pods that should have been destroyed by secondary blasts somehow weaved through the devastation untouched. Crew members who should have died in the vacuum found themselves pulled to safety by impossible coincidences. What's happening? Thaxer demanded, watching his tactical display. Unknown, sir. Our targeting computers are reporting probability anomalies. Shots that should have hit are missing by centimeters. Critical systems are failing at exactly the wrong moments. On Earth's command center, Dayan was watching the same data. It's starting. The adaptive extremis effect is activating across the entire human population. Everyone on those platforms, everyone in those ships, they're all unconsciously manipulating probability to survive. Can we control it? Hyun asked. No, it's instinctive, like breathing. The more danger we're in, the stronger it gets. The human fighters engaged the Concordance fleet. Minho found himself doing maneuvers he'd never trained for. His ship twisted through space in ways that violated basic physics. He saw an enemy missile coming straight at him, and instead of dodging, he flew directly toward it. At the last second, the missile's guidance system malfunctioned and it veered away. How did I know that would happen? He whispered. Around him, other pilots were experiencing the same thing. They anticipated enemy movements before they happened. They found weak points in shields that their computers said didn't exist. They survived hits that should have destroyed them. Junho, Hyun's wingman, took a direct hit from a plasma cannon. His fighter's shields collapsed and fire erupted from his engines. By all logic, he should have died. Instead, his escape pod ejected at precisely the right angle to avoid the explosion, and a passing piece of debris knocked him into a trajectory that sent him safely back toward a human platform. This isn't luck, Junho reported over the comm. This is something else. Hyun was watching the battle unfold with growing amazement. Daeun was right. We're changing probability itself. But the Concordance fleet was massive and probability could only bend so far. Human ships were dying. Platforms were being destroyed. Galactic maps end at Earth, where human myths break the bold Part 2. The transport pod carrying Jiwon never reached the Outer Rim research station. 3 hours into the journey, something slammed into the pod's hull. Alarms screamed. The artificial gravity failed. Ji-won floated in the darkness, her restraints the only thing keeping her from bouncing around the cabin. Then a voice crackled through the emergency comm system. "Hold tight, Doctor. This is going to be rough. Minho." The pod's side door exploded inward, not with fire or force, but with a precise molecular separation that left the edges glowing. A figure in black combat armor pulled himself through the opening. His helmet retracted, revealing a face covered in silver cybernetic lines that pulsed with blue light. "You called?" Minho said with a grin. "You're insane," Ji-won gasped. "This is a Concordance security transport." "I know. That's why we need to move fast." He pulled a device from his belt and attached it to her restraints. They clicked open instantly. "My ship is docked above us. Can you climb?" Ji-won nodded. She'd spent years working in zero gravity. Minho tossed her a safety line and they pulled themselves through the torn doorway into open space. Above them, a sleek black ship waited, its hull absorbing light like a hole in space. They climbed. Behind them, the transport pod's emergency beacons pulsed desperately. In the distance, Ji-won could see Concordance patrol ships changing course toward them. "They're coming," she said. "They're always coming." Minho hauled himself onto his ship's hull and pulled Ji-won after him. An airlock opened and they tumbled inside. The moment the door sealed, the ship lurched into motion. Ji-won pulled herself to the cockpit. Through the window, she watched space bend and twist as Minho's ship engaged its illegal jump drive. The Concordance required all ships to use approved quantum gates for faster-than-light travel. But smugglers had their own technology, stolen and modified from a dozen different species. "Where are we going?" Ji-won asked. "Where you wanted." "Earth." Minho's hands flew over the controls, though I should mention that's probably the worst idea anyone's ever had. "You've been there?" "3 times. Dropped off contraband for the human underground market. Never stayed long." He glanced at her. "The place feels wrong, like the universe doesn't want it to exist." The ship dropped out of its jump near the edge of Zone 7 Alpha. Minho cut all power except life support. "We coast from here. The Concordance has sensor arrays all around the dead zone. If we're lucky, they'll think we're just space debris." They drifted in silence for 6 hours. Ji-won spent the time reviewing her data, cross-referencing everything she'd found. The pattern was clear. Every civilization that approached Earth had been at the peak of their power. They had fleets of warships. They had weapons that could destroy planets. They had technology that seemed like magic, and then they disappeared. "Look at this," she said, pulling up a hologram. It showed the orbital space around the dead zone's edge. "Do you see those objects?" Minho leaned closer. "Debris field. Probably from old battles or—" He stopped. His eyes widened. "Those aren't asteroids. No, they're ships." Ji-won zoomed in. The objects became clearer. Massive vessels, each one easily 3 kilometers long. Their hulls were covered in strange symbols and designs that matched nothing in the Concordance database. "I count 247 distinct ship signatures. Different designs, different alloys, different power systems. How old are they?" "The youngest is 12,000 years. The oldest—" She checked her scanner again. "Over 90,000 years." Minho sat back in his chair. "That's not possible. No ship could remain intact for 90,000 years. These did, because they never moved after they got here. They just stopped." Ji-won pulled up another image. This one showed the interior of one of the derelict ships. "I'm picking up residual energy signatures inside some of them. Whatever killed the crews, it wasn't weapons fire. There's no damage to the ships. Then what?" "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." They crossed into Earth's solar system 12 hours later. Immediately, alarms started going off on Minho's ship. His AI, which had been quiet the entire journey, suddenly began speaking in rapid bursts of panicked code. "What's wrong with it?" Ji-won asked. "I don't know. It's never done this before." Minho tried to shut down the AI's vocal systems, but it kept speaking. The words became clearer. "Danger, danger, wrong, wrong, should not exist. Probability violation. Reality cascade, danger, danger." Ji-won felt a chill run down her spine. It's scared. AIs don't get scared. They don't have emotions. Then what's happening to it? Minho didn't answer. He was staring at the view screen. Earth filled the display, a blue and white marble hanging in the black. It looked peaceful, beautiful, normal, but something was wrong with it. Ji-won couldn't explain what. The planet looked exactly like it should. but every instinct in her body was screaming at her to turn around and run. "We're being hailed," Minho said. "Human frequency." The view screen changed. A woman appeared, middle-aged with sharp eyes and short black hair. She wore a military uniform that Jiwon recognized as Earth Defense Force. Unidentified vessel. "This is Captain Sua of the EDF Orbital Defense Platform. You've entered restricted space. State your identity and purpose." Jiwon stepped forward. "This is Dr. Jiwon. I'm a human citizen working for the Concordance Xenoarchaeology Institute. I need to speak with someone about Earth's history." Sua's expression didn't change. "You're a long way from Concordance space, Doctor. And you brought a smuggler's ship into our system. That tells me you're running from something." "The Concordance tried to silence my research. I found evidence that Earth is at the center of something they're hiding. Multiple civilizations have approached this planet over the past 100,000 years. All of them disappeared." For the first time, Sua's face showed emotion. Surprise quickly hidden. "You figured that out on your own?" "It wasn't difficult. The evidence is everywhere once you start looking." Sua was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Dock with Platform 7, I'll have a security team waiting. If you're telling the truth, there are people you need to meet." The docking procedure took 30 minutes. When Jiwon and Minho stepped off the ship, they found themselves surrounded by armed soldiers. But they weren't prisoners. The soldiers escorted them through the station to a secure conference room deep in the facility's core. Sua was waiting with 3 other people. One was a young woman with glasses and a data pad. Another was an older man in civilian clothes. The third was a military officer covered in medals. "This is Diun," Sua said, gesturing to the young woman. "She's a neuroscientist. Taewon is our military strategist. And this is Hyun," Jiwon gasped. "Hyun, my brother Hyun." The officer stepped forward. "Hello, sister. It's been a long time." Jiwon hadn't seen her brother in 7 years, not since she'd left Earth to work for the Concordance. He looked older now, harder. The weight of command sat heavy on his shoulders. "You're supposed to be a fighter pilot," she said. "I am. I'm also part of a special project." He gestured to the others. "We call it the Truth Initiative. For the past 50 years, we've been collecting data about every species that ever approached Earth, and we've learned something terrifying." Daeun stepped forward. "Every 5,000 years, a new alien civilization discovers us. They're always at the peak of their power. They always decide we're primitives who need to be conquered or studied. They always send their fleets. And?" Jiwon asked. "And none of them ever make it home?" Taewon pulled up a holographic display. It showed Earth's solar system surrounded by layers of dead ships. Hundreds of thousands of them. Maybe millions stretching back through time. We've defended ourselves every single time. And we never remember doing it. Jiwon felt her world tilting. "That's impossible." "It's the truth." Hyun's voice was grim. "Humanity has been fighting off alien invasions for over 100,000 years. We've defeated energy beings that could move through walls. We've beaten hive minds that controlled entire star systems. We've destroyed reality-warping entities that existed in 6 dimensions at once." "How?" Daeun smiled, but there was no humor in it. "That's what I've been studying. And I finally figured it out. Humans have something that no other species in the galaxy possesses. We call it adaptive extremis. When we face extinction, our consciousness changes reality itself to ensure survival." Jiwon shook her head. "You're talking about magic." "No. I'm talking about quantum mechanics and evolutionary psychology merging in ways that shouldn't be possible. But they are, because we're Earth's children, and Earth is the most hostile planet any intelligent species has ever evolved on." Minho spoke for the first time since they'd docked. "The Concordance knows this. That's why they quarantined you." "Yes." Sua's voice was cold. "They're not protecting us. They're protecting themselves. From us." The conference room door burst open. A young soldier ran in, his face pale. "Ma'am, we have a situation. Long-range scanners are picking up a massive fleet at the edge of the solar system. Concordance signatures. Thousands of ships. They followed us," Minho said quietly. Taewon pulled up the tactical display. The fleet was enormous, far larger than anything the Concordance had ever assembled before. At its center was a massive dreadnought that Jiwon recognized. The personal ship of High Arbiter Kexishan, the supreme leader of the Concordance. Galactic maps end at Earth, where human myths break the bold. Part 1. The dust on Kepler 442b hadn't been disturbed in 10,000 years. Jiwan brushed away another layer of sediment from the stone tablet, her gloved hands moving with practiced care. The symbols carved into the ancient surface glowed faintly under her scanner's light. She had seen hundreds of dead civilizations in her 7 years as a xenoarchaeologist, but this one felt different. Another warning marker, she whispered into her comm unit. The words echoed in her helmet. Her assistant, a floating drone named Scout, hovered closer. Its sensors bathed the tablet in blue light. Translation processing. Estimated completion, 40 seconds. Jiwan sat back on her heels and looked around the ruins. Massive towers stretched into the red sky, their surfaces covered in the same strange symbols. The civilization that built this place had been powerful. Their technology was advanced enough to manipulate gravity and bend space. Yet something had destroyed them completely. No bodies, no signs of battle. Just empty cities and warnings carved into every surface. Scout beeped. Translation complete. The text reads, "Where the myths devour the mighty." Navigation coordinates follow. Destination restricted Zone 7 Alpha. G1's blood ran cold. Zone 7 Alpha. Everyone in the Concordance knew that designation. It was the largest dead zone in the galaxy, a sphere of space 50 light-years across where no ship ever traveled. At its center sat a small yellow star with a blue planet. Earth, her homeworld. She stood quickly and pulled up her personal datapad. Over the past 3 months, she had excavated 6 different sites across 3 star systems. Every single one had the same pattern. Ancient civilizations, sudden extinction, warning messages, and coordinates pointing to Earth. Scout cross-referenced this location with the previous sites. The drone's processor hummed. Match confirmed. All 6 civilizations reached approximately the same technological level before extinction. Time periods vary from 12,000 to 100,000 years ago. All left identical warning phrases. All navigation data terminates at Zone 7 Alpha. Jiwan's mind raced. The Galactic Concordance controlled 47,000 star systems. They had rules for everything: trade, war, colonization. But the dead zones were absolute. No one questioned them. No one investigated them. The Concordance said they were regions where reality itself became unstable, where ships disappeared and crews went mad. But what if that was a lie? Her comm unit crackled. Dr. G1, this is orbital control. Your transport departs in 3 hours. Please return to the landing zone. She tapped her comm. Understood. I'm packing up now, but she wasn't packing. She was downloading every piece of data Scout had collected, every symbol, every coordinate, every fragment of warning. She compressed it all into an encrypted file and uploaded it to a hidden server she maintained for her private research. The flight back to Concordance Station took 2 days. Jiwan spent most of it in her cabin analyzing the data. The patterns were undeniable. 6 civilizations spread across thousands of light-years, all destroyed after they plotted courses toward Earth. The timing varied, but the result was always the same. Complete annihilation. What was on Earth that could destroy advanced civilizations? She knew the official story. Earth was quarantined 300 years ago, when humanity first achieved faster-than-light travel. The Concordance had met them at the edge of their solar system and declared the entire region off-limits. Humans were allowed to live on Earth and maintain basic space infrastructure, but they couldn't leave their solar system. A few humans, like Jiwan, were granted special permits for work in Concordance space, but they were rare exceptions. The Concordance claimed the quarantine was for humanity's protection. They said Earth sat in a dangerous region of space. They said humans weren't ready for full galactic citizenship, but Jiwan had never believed that. And now she had proof that something else was happening. Her ship docked at Concordance Station, a massive structure that housed 50,000 beings from 200 different species. She made her way through customs, her encrypted data safely hidden in her neural implant. The Concordance scanners couldn't detect it there. She headed straight for her apartment in the human quarter. The door slid open and she froze. 3 figures stood in her living room. 2 were Concordance security officers, their armor gleaming under the lights. The third was Commander Vexidal, a high-ranking officer of the reptilian saltier species. His scales were deep purple, a color that indicated authority. Dr. Jiwan, Vextal said, his translator rendering his hissing speech into perfect Korean. We need to discuss your recent research. Jiwan's heart pounded, but she kept her face calm. My research is all properly documented and filed with the Xenoarchaeology Institute. Not all of it. Vextal stepped closer. His eyes were solid black, unreadable. You've been accessing restricted historical databases. You've been plotting navigation routes to dead zones. You've been asking dangerous questions. I'm an archaeologist. Questions are my job. Not these questions. Vextal gestured to one of the security officers. The officer held up a holographic display. It showed Jiwan's search history from the past 3 months. Every query about Zone 7 Alpha, every request for ancient star maps, every piece of data about civilizations that had approached Earth. You're being reassigned, Vextal said. Effective immediately. You'll be working on a research station in the Outer Rim. No access to historical databases. No contact with frontier worlds. No investigation of dead zones. Jiwan felt anger rising in her chest. You can't do this. I'm a citizen of the Concordance. I have rights. You're a human, Vextal said coldly. Your rights are limited by the Quarantine Treaty. Be grateful we're not charging you with violations of restricted zone protocols. The security officers moved toward her. One of them reached for her arm. Jiwan pulled away. I know what you're hiding. Those civilizations didn't die because of reality distortions. They died because of Earth. Because of something on that planet. And you know what it is. Vextal's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Fear? Recognition? You know nothing, he said quietly. And you should pray it stays that way. The Concordance has maintained peace for 30,000 years by keeping certain truths hidden. Earth is one of those truths. Why? What's on Earth? Monsters, Vextal said. Monsters wearing human faces. Before Jiwan could respond, the security officers grabbed her arms. She struggled, but their grip was too strong. They pulled her toward the door. Her mind raced. She needed help. She needed someone who could get her off this station and past the Concordance security net. She needed someone who didn't care about laws or regulations. She needed a smuggler. As they dragged her into the corridor, she activated her neural implant's emergency function. It sent a single encrypted message to a contact she'd been saving for emergencies. The message contained just 3 words and a set of coordinates. Help me. Earth. The recipient was Minho, a cybernetically enhanced smuggler who owed her a favor from a previous archaeological expedition. He was dangerous, unpredictable, and completely outside Concordance control. If anyone could get her home, it was him. The security officers shoved her into a transport pod. Through the window, she watched Concordance Station recede into the distance. But she wasn't afraid anymore. She was going to find the truth about Earth, and no one was going to stop her.